Have you ever faced that uphill battle of bringing new technology into an industry that still feels stuck in the 90s?
Healthcare frequently lags the rest of the business world by, easily 5 to 10 years. And what we found was the AI training algorithms were all wrong. It was pointing out the wrong things for what dentists and oral surgeons care about.
How did the ChatGPT moment hit your organization?
We haven't seen any impact from a ChatGPT standpoint yet.
Today, I'll show you how leaders in two of the most old school sectors, healthcare and trucking, address these challenges head on and are winning with AI and modern tech. And trust me, it's not about ChatGPT solving your problems with one click. Today, we're going to learn real tactics these folks use to get staff on board, avoid wasted tech spending, and finally, they're dragging these businesses out of the tech dark ages. So let's hear from Michael Chudacoff of Midwest Truck and Auto Parts, who led a significant expansion of that business in their merger and exit, and Dan Hosler, who's been building out US-wide network of oral surgery practices.
It's interesting, right? You think about how technology has entered the healthcare world. You go back to the 2009 High-Tech Act, and it was kind of a forced migration onto electronic health records. Fast forward 15, 20 years, and now people are wondering, what is the actual applicability of forcing people to use those systems? And so now we're starting to see some really interesting applications of technology, like recording inbound calls to healthcare offices so that you can use AI scrubbers to determine likelihood of showing up for an appointment or no-show rate, or other ways of determining what is the likelihood of somebody following through with a treatment plan as given by a doctor or a nurse. So I think we're really starting to see an interesting era of technology being applied to healthcare with demonstrable results.
Yeah, and in the truck and automotive world, an industry, a very unsophisticated industry that we used to play in, the aftermarket itself. So we're kind of a tier below the OEMs, and within our industry, being that it was unsophisticated meant there was a lot of technological advancement that was available. So in my time at Midwest, we were able to implement new phone systems, new e-commerce platforms, new ERP systems, even quality control systems, and a CRM and analytics tool, all of which as a complete suite would enable our salespeople and our staff to have an easier time on a day-to-day basis, service their customers in a stronger way, and really hit the bottom line too in terms of the different products that we could then offer our customers.
Yeah, so how did you know when was the right time to make these investments in these types of technologies?
For us, because it was unsophisticated, we had a little bit of leeway in how quickly we could choose to adopt it. It took me being in the business a few years to learn the different departments and how each department worked and coexisted with each other, to understand what changes we could make to maybe have more cohesion or have more buy-in from the employee base. Because I think that's one of the biggest things in a small to medium-sized business is with 150 employees, your technology is only as good as the people that use it. And so it took years of research in terms of what is out there for us to utilize, but also convincing an older workforce that these tools could help them on a daily basis.
Right. So Dan, in your model, Allied OMS, you're basically bringing together disparate, basically practices, and they each must have their own technology stack as well as their own cultures and other aspects. So how do you guys think about that? Do you think about it at all, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so one of the things early on, there were always about a half dozen PM or practice management software systems. So we like to at least know, is somebody on one of the most frequently used platforms? If they're not, we really should have the upfront conversation about what it might take to migrate over to something that's a little bit more normally used. The reason we do that, though, is because as long as you're using one of the top 6 systems, our data warehouse exists in such a way that we're pulling that data, right, literally almost every element out of the data tables into a data warehouse on a daily basis. And so the key to us is making sure that we've got access to the data. Once we have it, we can scrub it and clean it, and then we can start to do stuff with it and then turn it into visualization for our doctor partners. I think a lot of times they have instincts about how their individual practices run, but if we can show them visual dashboards on a regular basis, it allows them to take action in their practice, in weeks, not months or quarters. And so we really try to utilize that element of technology to drive some of the changes that we're looking for, because you're right, the tech stacks are all over the board, right? You have, everything from the practice that's on a full cloud-based PM system. By the way, full cloud-based adoption rates might be sub 10%. Healthcare frequently lags the rest of the business world by, easily 5 to 10 years. So that level of sophistication all the way down to, you've got to stop using Windows 2000. Like that's beyond, not only is it beyond the kind of goodbye date, but it's actually known as a HIPAA violation. It's so insecure that you technically can't use it. So we really do see kind of everything across the spectrum.
Right. So it sounds like in both of your industries, they're kind of sort of late adopters to technology. Is that seem right?
Very fair. Yep.
And so how did the kind of the ChatGPT moment hit your organizations? Did it have any impact? What was the thoughts there?
We haven't seen any impact from a ChatGPT standpoint yet. I think generative AI might help in creating new products, potentially sifting through what we currently have and distribute, and maybe iterating on certain products, creating stronger quality or new varieties of things that might be better for the market.
Yeah, and it's definitely early innings for us. I'll give you a real world example. We've been trying to encourage people to use ChatGPT in sort of like very easy ways, like maybe write an email and use it to make the email sound better. But I think lately we were just experimenting with a specific type of AI that reads 2D and 3D X-rays. And as so often happens in healthcare, it turns out the development team, this is applicable for dentists and oral surgeons, the development team used radiologists that focused on a completely different subsect. And so just because you're a radiologist doesn't make you an expert on reading the teeth and the mouth. And what we found was the AI training algorithms were all wrong. It was pointing out the wrong things for what dentists and oral surgeons care about. So it seems like we still have a long ways to go before we can really get, I'm going to call it wide scale adoption of more novel types of AI uses.
Yeah, I think piggybacking off that, we had departments with 10, 20, 30 people in them. And I could see a day where they're using maybe specific sales and marketing type forms of AI to help do their job maybe more efficiently, and maybe take some of the tedious nature out of some of the departments, and kind of automate that further.
So that's the unvarnished truth on bringing technology like AI to traditional industries. Yes, it's messy, but it is possible if you understand your processes first. Right, Minnie D? Oh, definitely. Nothing says progress like prying Windows 2000 out of someone's cold, dead hands. It's kind of like teaching an ancient T-Rex to use TikTok. Well, that's one way to put it. Look, I've worked with hundreds of companies through these kind of AI transformations, and I've learned that if you skip that deep dive into your own processes, you're just lighting money on fire. So subscribe to our newsletter to keep up to date with everything we're learning and to get real insights on ROI, technology, to launching pilot projects. I'll see you next time.